Welcome, welcome, welcome to a wonderful, wonderful show. Now, come on, Mr. Simmer down. We've all seen the new frock. And you, sir. Try and pretend you're not drunk, okie dokie. Now, come on, I want you to welcome on stage now, Rachel Ashley's Your Turn.
Peter Corr from National Rejoin March. Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hi, Rachel. Good. You?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You've got a bit of a throat thing going on.
I have. Yeah, can you tell?
No, I can't actually. But if but if you suddenly start coughing and spluttering, then everybody will know why. You have to bear in mind I started recording these podcasts in the middle of COVID, so you know.
Well, let's just pretend we recorded it back then.
Yeah. Okay, so we need to tell everybody who you are. You are Peter Corr. You are the co-founder of the National Rejoin March, which is a campaign to rejoin the European Union. Yay!
Yay!
Which started as a Facebook group. But you're also, because we're all like different things in these campaigns, you also drive a lorry for a living. You're also ex-forces, and you also make dance music. And we're going to be playing one of your tracks at the end of this podcast because we always like to end with a little bit of music. So, gosh, where to start? You're a bit of a Renaissance man. You do a little bit of everything, bit of art, bit of fighting, bit of driving, and now political campaigning. So, God, where to start with you?
Well, you know what they say? Do you remember old hi-fi systems that were separate systems? So
Yeah.
every bit had its own section, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then they got replaced by all these all-in-one things that did everything.
Yeah.
Well, the separates were always much better, and I think I'm one of these all-in-one things that's just like a cheap one. So I do a bit of everything, but not very well.
Well, I beg to differ. You seem to run the National Rejoin March extremely well. But let's rewind a little bit. So you joined the army, is it?
I did. I joined when I was 18 years old.
Okay, so out of school.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I kind of had 2 gap years in between school where I was doing odd jobs. I was never actually meaning to join the army,
Okay.
but my best mate at school was always wanting to join the army.
Yeah.
And as soon as he turned 18, our birthday's like a week apart.
Yeah.
And as soon as he turned 18, he was going to the Army Career Centre, and he said, "Do you just want to come?" So I went with him, and I was sat in the waiting room while he was having his test.
Yeah.
And this sergeant come up to me and said, "What are you doing? Are you waiting to sign on?" I went, "No, I'm just waiting for my mate." And he said, "Well, do you want to do this barb test, it's called, which is what they test, that you do like a test on the computer to decide what jobs you can apply for."
Okay.
I said, "Yeah, I'll do that then." So I did it.
What, just to
And
kill time?
I did really well. And yeah, just because I was sat there waiting.
Yeah.
So I did it. And the results come out, and it was really good results apparently. And he gave me a list of different jobs I could do.
Okay.
And by the time I got home, went home and told my mum I'm joining the army.
And what did your
pretty
mum
much
say?
shocked. She was just totally shocked because it come out of completely nowhere.
Well,
And then she
yeah.
blamed my mate Andy.
Of course. I mean, was she happy about it, unhappy about it, or just resigned to the fact that, you know?
I don't think she was necessarily happy about it, but she certainly weren't. She never, tried to stop me or anything either.
Yeah.
Because she knows I'm
Aw.
pretty strong-minded. If I want to do something, I tend to just do it.
Oh,
I'm a blast.
hugs to Peter's mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she loved it when I come out and got home as well. She was a bit
I'm
worried while I was
sure.
in.
I'm sure. So, did you go to scary places like Iraq?
I didn't know. I signed off, and I think I had because you have to give 12 months notice when you leave the army.
Okay.
And I had 2 months left to go, and 9/11 happened.
Oh, blimey.
So I was going to stay in, but I'd already got like stuff lined up for when I'd left. So I
Right.
decided to leave anyway. So I kind of left before that Iraq war,
Yeah.
and the one prior to that was before I joined. So Kosovo
Right.
was my one.
Right. So you have been to scary places.
Uh, mm, I don't know. If I should tell this story. Kosovo happened, and I got in trouble just before we was posted out. So I was
Right.
only out there for a little bit and got sent back to Germany where I was posted to get
Right.
charged. So I didn't spend that much time actually in Kosovo.
We won't delve into the reasons and why.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I was just drunk
No.
and no, let's
Oh,
leave
come
that
on. We've
story.
all we've all got drunk.
I got drunk with my mates. We was in Germany and
Mm.
we was messing about and I pushed my mate into a dustbin on the
Right.
street in Germany and it knocked the bin over, right? And we was
Yeah.
just stood there laughing and then all of a sudden this car pulled up really fast, a really old looking knackered car, by the way.
Yeah.
And these two proper scruffy dudes got out the car, like in denim and beards and that,
Right.
and told us to pick up the bin. And we was like, well, we're gonna, who are you? Get lost sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they just like grabbed us and got us in headlocks and all sorts.
Oh
So we started working with them, and it
no.
turned out they was undercover German police.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, so we got into a bit of trouble, and that's what we was charged for.
All right. Well, so you see, that just makes you more. It's more endearing.
Do you think?
I do definitely. Yeah. And at that point,
Okay.
you weren't remotely political.
No,
That's
no.
interesting.
I got slightly political literally just after that, while I was sat in Kosovo and after Kosovo, because oh, I remember being in the army, and because we was in Germany, the only connection really to home, because we didn't have mobile and the internet back then either,
Mm.
because I'm that old.
Yeah.
Um, so the only real connection to home was newspapers,
Okay.
scarily, when no one know what they're really like. Um,
Yeah. Gosh.
so
Yeah.
I'd sit there reading stories, and whenever it was a story about the army, it was so obvious that they was talking complete nonsense. And like there was a time when they were saying that Tony Blair weren't getting the right kit for the armed forces going to Kosovo, for example.
Yeah.
And I was really good mates with someone who worked in the stores, and I asked him if it was true, and he went, "It's not true at all."
All
And I
right.
kind of realised that okay, they're just saying that because they don't want Tony Blair to win the next election, so they're trying to,
All
that was
right.
the first time I
So there was
realised that we're not being told the
a
truth.
bit of an inkling that we were maybe all being a little bit manipulated by forces unknown at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't
absolutely.
know,
So I
did
think
we? We didn't know.
no, especially back then, because you literally relied on the news at 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. and the newspapers, really, didn't you? What else did
And
you
you
have?
and you just believed it. I mean, not necessarily the tabloids, but you definitely did believed the news on the telly and the radio.
Yeah, you
Because
had no choice, really, did you?
well, no, and there was no reason not to either. But I mean, that's one of the things that the internet has completely changed. I mean, it's been revolutionary,
Mm.
really. So when you left the army, is that when you started driving?
Yeah, I got my HGV license while I was in the army, so
Yeah.
I actually got it before I was 21,
Oh,
which was
cool.
the age you had to be back then. I
Yeah.
think I've changed that recently, actually.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I got it early, and then that was pretty much because I was in the Royal Signals, which is telecommunications.
Yeah.
Uh, but the kit you're using in the army was like 30 years old back then.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was useless for when you leave the army in terms of qualifications. So really all I got from the army was my HGV license. So
Okay.
that's naturally just what I did when I come out.
And but it meant that you were able to earn a living.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I enjoy driving.
Yeah.
I like you just left alone once you're on the road, really. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I like driving too. Because gigging around the country, the driving was one of the
Yeah.
best bits for me. I liked it, and we live in such a beautiful country as well. And did you ever
It
drive on the?
is, yeah.
Did you ever drive on the continent as well? I mean, did you have like Kieran, the van driver, kind of got very exercised when we left the European Union, and he could see, before Brexit actually really happened, he could see
Yeah.
what would happen, and he was extremely vocal about it, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, he's great, Kieran. I like him.
Mm.
But no, I didn't, unfortunately. I drove literally the whole country, apart from on the mainland only, basically. So I did
Yeah.
Scotland, Wales, everywhere on England, but no, that was it.
And were you making your dance music at this point as well? Because that kind of time was when sampling and all of that stuff started to come out, wasn't it?
Kind of, yeah. I started making music with computers when I was probably 12 years old on
Oh,
a
wow.
Commodore Amiga, I think, was the
No,
first time I
really?
started doing that.
Oh,
Yeah.
my word.
Yeah, I've been doing it most of my life,
Oh,
really. It's
cool.
only really a hobby,
Yeah. No, but it's
but
something. But I just think it makes being interested in music and the arts. It just makes somebody a whole-rounded human being, doesn't it? And I think that's
absolutely,
dead
yeah.
important. I think it's really, really important. That people feel that arts are for them
Yeah,
of
totally, yeah.
whatever form, music or whatever it is, dancing or whatever. I think that's dead important. And so when did the whole kind of rejoin thing start? What was the thing? What was the point where you thought, God, this is so shit. I have
Do
to
you
do
know,
something about it.
do you know what it was? I think it's all, when did it really, really start? Um, I've just said the first time I thought about politics was when I was in the army, but I reckon it was actually quite a bit earlier than that, but I didn't connect it to the word politics, if that makes
It
sense.
does make
And that
sense, yeah.
was like in the early 90s, I started watching and got into these films about Black American gangsters, so Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, and movies like that.
Yeah,
And because I lived in Croydon at the time, which was on a council estate, and it was quite rough, and I was getting involved with gangs already at that early age.
right.
Um, so when watching these films, I kind of realized that these gangs in America basically had the exact same life as us, but they were just on the other side of the ocean and they had a different accent.
Yeah,
And the thing that connected us was poverty. It's clearly poverty that's what connected us. And I thought, well, if it's exactly the same on the other side of the world, then it's probably everywhere. And I thought about that quite a lot through my early teens, but I
yeah.
didn't think of it as being politics. It
Right.
probably sounds silly,
No,
but
no, well, no, because what? No, because it's just your reality, isn't it? And then
yeah. So
through the arts, again, the art, film, music, and all of
yeah,
that kind of culture, that you realised that you had stuff in common with people in different parts of the world.
that's right. Yeah.
That's actually quite
So
a
I
big
mean,
and profound thing, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. The arts is that's why fascists want to burn the arts, isn't it? Books and
Yeah.
stop movies. That's exactly the reason, so that people like me don't get radicalized.
But well, yeah, that's dead interesting. That, but I mean, you didn't feel as though you were being radicalised at the time, and it's not the same now as people who kind of get sucked down rabbit holes of like conspiracy theories and one. It's a lot more subtle than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think when you're actually living that life, you can see it with your own eyes, can't you? So you don't need to be
Absolutely.
radicalized. You can just see what's going on.
Yeah, it's your day to
So I
day
mean,
reality, isn't it?
yeah, so I always kind of thought about it from that angle anyway, because of how I grew up.
Yeah.
Um, so when Jeremy Corbyn came along, um, that's what really got me into politics, if I'm
Okay.
honest. So before Brexit,
Yeah.
because he was the first politician that just seemed to be saying things that I thought needed to be done my whole life.
Yeah.
Because I did like a lot of his policies and still do, if I'm quite honest with you.
Mm.
Um, so I started following Jeremy Corbyn and definitely went down a rabbit hole there.
Mm.
Um, and then the Brexit referendum came about
Was that?
in
Do you know what? I can't remember. Was the year that Jeremy Corbyn did Glastonbury? Was that 2016?
it. Uh,
We're going to have to Google this,
oh,
Peter,
I
aren't
can't
we?
remember. Yeah, you
It
might
was
have to
around.
stick an
Yeah,
insert in
I
here.
know.
I can't remember. It was
It was
around
around
then. It was
that
definitely
time.
around that
Yeah,
time.
it might
Yeah,
have been the year earlier, but I've a feeling in my tummy that it might have been the same year. And of course,
I
because
think
a
it may
lot
have
of
been.
people were at Glastonbury, and then Leave won by so few votes. The fact that it was
Mm.
the same kind of weekend as Glastonbury may well have had an impact on the result as well, which is crazy when you think about it, isn't it?
Can you imagine if that was proven?
I
It's
know.
Glastonbury's fault. All this time we've been searching for the reason why it happened. It's
It's
because
because all the kids
Glastonbury
were at
happened.
Glastonbury, yeah. And so, and I can see the appeal of Jeremy Corbyn to, anybody that can see the injustice in society, and it's huge, the injustices in society.
Mm.
But what led you from Corbyn to Rejoin? Because that's quite a jump.
It is quite a leap, and I don't say it out loud often, especially when I'm in the pro EU community, because a lot
We
of
won't
people in
tell
the pro
anybody
EU
then, Peter.
will just tell no one to listen.
Yeah.
Don't nobody listen to this podcast, all right?
Do you know the joy of these podcasts is people's journeys and the things that kind of trigger somebody to think something or do something. Those are the really, really interesting parts of people's lives and people's stories. So I'm on tenterhooks. How do we get from down the Corbyn rabbit hole, if it's fair to call it that, to running the campaign to rejoin the European Union?
Well, how it happened was, as I said, I was closely following Corbyn, and it got to the point where he was pretty much one of the only politicians I was trusting at the time.
Yeah.
So the Brexit vote came about, so just before the referendum, this was, and I was looking at, because I knew I was going to vote. So I looked at both sides, sort of briefly, if you like, and I saw
Oh, right.
David
So you
Cameron.
didn't even know, like in your tummy, that you were a Remainer at that point.
I really didn't know. I did
Wow.
vote Remain, but I didn't vote Remain passionately. I can say that
Okay.
truthfully.
Yeah.
Um, because I looked at the Remain side and I saw it being led by David Cameron and Tony Blair, who I didn't trust either of them, if I'm honest.
Mm.
And then I looked at the Leave side, being led by the likes of Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, and I certainly didn't trust them either.
No.
And I was honestly just going to sit it out and not even bother voting.
Yeah.
Um, but then
Wow. I mean,
then I
like,
watched.
wow, though, Peter.
It is quite a change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I realise that now, looking
Yeah.
at it. I've
Yeah.
never really looked at it like that as being a massive change until
Well, do you know
like
what?
saying
I
this
mean,
to people
I
and they
know,
point it out.
I know you've not kind of finished this little chunk, but I'm dying to know what your family feels about the change in your entire life, because this was really impact on your We're eating into your evening as we speak, as we're recording. So just
Yeah.
just finish off the Jeremy Corbyn leap to rejoin.
Okay, so I was looking at both sides and didn't trust either and thought, right, I'm not going to even bother voting. And then I listened to a speech by Corbyn.
Yeah.
And he said in that speech that the EU is not perfect, it needs reform. But the only way we're going to do that is if we vote Remain and stay in the club.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, I trust you, but I didn't want to just trust him point blank and vote Remain because he said so, because I'm not that stupid.
Right.
So I did start doing research. And the more and more research I did, the more and more I realised if we're talking about the economy, economists are saying to Remain. If we're talking about logistics, like I was in,
Yeah.
they're saying to Remain, the people who are running it and know what they want about.
Yeah.
And it came apparent pretty quick that the people who knew what they were talking about was all saying to Remain.
Mm.
So I voted Remain, but as I say, not passionately, not emotionally or nothing, just because it seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then the morning after the vote, when the results came in and it was Leave, I don't know why, but it just had a really strong effect on me, and it
Oh, okay.
really bothered me, and I just thought, this is wrong.
Right.
This is really wrong.
So that was
So
the
that's
part
where the passion
where your
started.
tummy kicked in, and you could feel
Yeah.
like in your tummy that, like, in you, like a visceral kind of sense that maybe we've been played a little bit here.
Yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. So the years between then and 2019,
Mm.
it was a bit of a turmoil anyway for a Corbyn fan because he lost twice, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it can make some people disenfranchised when someone you really want to win loses twice.
Yeah.
But it did the opposite to me. I gave up on Corbyn because there's no point trying a third time. But I was already then very passionate about the fact that we'd left the EU.
Okay.
And when I knew Boris was going to win that 2019 election, I just thought, okay, well, we're not going to get a second vote, so that's it, it's done. We're going to definitely be out of the EU. So then I thought, instead of thinking, right, well, I'll just put my head in my music for the rest of my life, I thought, well, what's next? And instantly, obviously, we'll fight to get back in the EU, then now we're out. And that's where it came from, really.
And did you go on any of those really massive marches that kind of happened in 2018, 2019? Like the really big one, I think, was 2019 with, I suspect, way over 1 million people there.
No, I was
Wow.
I was more about going on. I went on a few BLM Black Lives Matter marches because
Okay.
I cared at that time. I kind of cared more about that.
Okay.
This is what I mean. I really wasn't that passionate until the 2019 election is when
That's
it
when it
clicked and
really
I
kicked
changed.
in, yeah. Mm.
Mm,
That makes a lot of sense, though.
you
Really.
think?
I do, yeah, because Boris Johnson is not a serious character, is he? And
Not at all.
the more that you find out about, his links to Russia,
Russia, yeah.
yeah, and sticking Lebedev in the Lords and all of that stuff. And again, I'm aware it's a bit of a rabbit hole. There's a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily proven, but there's also a lot of stuff that is. And
Yeah.
it's just outrageous. And it's very similar to what we see happening in the United States at the moment. And you feel powerless and you feel that you have to do something about it.
Well, I see it all as being really deeply connected, and
Yeah.
I also see Brexit as being the catalyst for all of it in a way.
Yeah.
It like gave the right wing and the far right wing especially a boost all around the world, I think.
You did.
And that's
Yeah.
why I honestly think Rejoin should be the thing we're all concentrating on, because I think it can also be the catalyst to reverse it all too.
Do you know what? Well, I think that that's very wise, actually. And I think that since Trump got re-elected and that there are questions over the legitimacy of the election and his links to Moscow and all of that, I think that Rejoin is now such an epic no-brainer.
Yeah,
But the numbers are backing that up as well. I think people can genuinely see that now.
I think so too. It's been steadily building and building, and the last 2 weeks, I would say, has give it a massive boost.
Good.
I've heard people, even in my own family. I mean, you're going to ask about what my family thinks about what we're doing.
Because it's changed your life so much. So you did that to
Yeah.
your mum. You joined the army, and your mum didn't know anything about it. and then you go from like a kid from a council estate who's making dance music on his kind of baby computer, because they weren't very sophisticated back then, were they?
No, there wasn't at all. No.
And to like becoming a national political figure.
It's a bit mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. When you say them words to me, it makes me realise how mad it is, let alone my family.
Yeah. So how do they feel about who is Peter and what have you done with him?
See, I don't actually think I've actually changed much. When I started doing this, everyone was saying people are going to want to speak to you and stuff. You need to get media training, and I absolutely, to this day and forever, will refuse that.
Okay.
Because to me, media training is being taught how to lie.
Okay.
So I've just refused to do it. I'm going to be me. People can like me or not.
And I think that having seen attempts at media training with people like Margaret Thatcher, it just doesn't work. It just it just doesn't work. And what people really like is authenticity. And I've seen the way that you perform on really kind of fractious debates. And do you know what I really love most? So you just sit there and let them get on with it.
I do, yeah. I like listening. I like it to get just to the point where I think, all right, you're being out of order now. I better step in.
But it's like you're internally laughing at them. And to me, personally, can't speak for anybody else, but to me, that's incredibly appealing. It's very, very funny.
I'm
because
not
they
sure it appeals to everyone.
no, but they get the extreme right. They're just fundamentally angry people, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, and
Have you
so
have you seen that drama that was made about? Do you know the BBC interview with what's that journalist's name who did the Prince Andrew interview?
yes, I have the docudrama that was made about it. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
with Billy Piper.
yes, yeah,
Do you know the line she says just before she goes to the interview and says, "Let him talk because
yes,
powerful men like the sound of their own voice.
yes,
Let him talk and he'll drop himself in it."
yeah, yeah. They can't
That
help
that
themselves.
that really made an impression on me, and I genuinely do think of that when I'm doing anything like this,
Well, it works.
on podcasts and that. Yeah,
It works, and don't
yeah,
let anybody train it out of you.
I won't.
Good. So how do we? So your wife, your mother, your kids, your cousins, your siblings. What on earth do they think of who you've become?
Well, for ten years I was doing tramping, which is where you're in the truck from Monday to Friday. You don't come home apart from weekends.
Yeah.
So they didn't see much of me anyway. So in a way, that hasn't changed. Recently,
And
I've
now they see you on the
come away from
telly.
doing that. Yeah. So oh look, there he is. But so in a way, and also I don't live in my hometown either.
Right.
So I don't live where my family lives. So I don't see them, you know, much anyway.
Right.
But all of them sort of going back to the referendum, the day before the referendum, when I made my mind up after
Mm.
doing the research, I put on Facebook, we all need to vote Remain. And almost everyone in my family sort of went absolutely mad on that post
All
on
right.
Facebook because they were all Brexiteers,
Right. And
for
do you
all the
understand
usual
why? Yeah.
reasons.
Oh, that's dead interesting, isn't it? And so they bought the lies they believed about the NHS getting the money and all of the rest of it.
Yeah, if I'm honest, probably 80-90% of it was about immigration.
Right.
Um, But I do get why, and it links back to what I started with, poverty.
Yeah.
Because almost all of my family, certainly, come from poverty.
Yeah.
Uh, so when we was in the EU all them years, if people that were poor and felt like the EU did nothing for them,
Mm.
why would they vote to remain? Do you know
Yeah.
that they was led to believe by the likes of Boris and that if we leave the EU, we can make changes and make your lives better.
Mm.
We know it's complete nonsense,
Mm.
but it was almost like they just went, well, yeah, let's take a chance on that then, you know.
Mm. Well, yes, I suppose that when people start to lose hope, they'll just clutch at anything that, that anybody that comes along and says, I've got the answer to all your problems is a very, very attractive prospect, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
See, and for Rejoiners, I think we can genuinely say that.
Mm.
But the problem is, rejoining the EU in itself is not going to solve our problems. It's just going to basically put more money into the economy.
Mm.
So once we've got that, we need to then convince the politicians to actually use that money to help,
Yeah.
people who need it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's probably a bigger battle, really.
So you've kind of committed to this. You've changed your life, and there's probably no going back now.
There isn't, no, much to my other half's annoyance, probably.
Oh dear. And I
No,
mean,
she totally supports and believes in it. She just gets a bit annoyed, really, I guess, how
it
much
must
time I have
take
to spend
so
doing
much
it.
time. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of time. And like even now I'm taking you away from your family, which I apologize for. Sorry, Peter's family. So how can people listening to this podcast, how can they find out more about National Rejoin March, get involved, and listen to your music?
If you want to be tortured and listen to my music, then you can just search for Fixbeat, Fixbeat, on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your music. As for National Rejoin March, just go to the website marchforrejoin.co.uk and you can find out all the events we're doing, all the stuff we're doing, links to the social media, links to this podcast as well.
Yeah.
As soon as they're up. And yeah, just get involved.
Yeah,
National
defo.
Rejoin March is about getting out of the online bubble. It's about doing stuff in real life,
Yeah.
out on the streets.
And doing it in a
That's what
fun kind of
NRM is.
way as well.
100%. To me, campaigning has to be fun, because
Yeah.
if it ain't, who wants to do it if it's not going to be fun?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So everybody go and find National Rejoin March online and on all the socials. Now, to end this podcast, we're going to have one of Peter's tracks. So Peter, could you introduce your track to close the show, please?
Yeah, certainly. This is a liquid drum and bass track, and it's called Entwined.
Fantastic. Peter Corr, boss of National Rejoin March. Cheers.
I hate that word.
Founder, animateur of National Rejoin March. Thank you
Extremist.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Really appreciate it. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Best friend, each other's soul. Oh, we ride through the waves of time. In your eyes, our love's the endless tide. Yeah, we're entwined. Go by, our love still grows. Go from day one, it never slows. Sometimes it feels too good to be true. Few people have what we do. We ride through the waves of time. Endless tide. Yeah, we're entwined. Oh, we're the years go by, our love still grows.